What's up, guys? Welcome to Kind of Funny's Batman in Review. That's right. We are ranking and reviewing every theatrically released Batman movie. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by one of the coolest dudes in video games, Greg Miller.
I can't wait to watch Batman v Superman again. Now, are we doing the ultimate cut again?
No. No, we did that, Greg. We did that. You can go watch that now on youtube.com.
So no DCEU Batman.
Exactly. No, every theatrically released Batman movie that's not in the DCEU. So are we doing Joker? Yeah, we are. We're going to do Joker, baby.
Wow.
We also
but
have
that's
the
not
big
a Batman movie. That was
Kevin
a Joker
Coelho.
movie. I was going to wear a different shirt that I was really excited. I'm going to go get it. It's nice seeing you.
Go. Do your thing. We also have Andy Cortez.
If he changes into an Emperor's New Groove shirt, I'll be very happy.
Yes. And of course, we have Nick Scarpino rounding out.
What's up, everyone? Welcome.
It's going to be a good one. I can already feel
Kevin's
it.
chair kind of looks like Batman right now with the eyes. Can you
Oh,
see
wow.
that? Yeah.
It kind of does.
It looks like an angry Snoopy.
Okay, sure.
A little bit.
Or Batman.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Cameron Kennedy once again did the amazing
Killing
intro. Carter Harrell did the music. But Cameron Kennedy, I asked him last night, I was like, I want some clarification on exactly what we just saw. Because there's a lot going on. And his response was, there was originally going to be a detailed closer-up shot of everyone tied up, but it had to be scrapped for time. Greg is the 1966 Adam West Batman. Nick is the 1989 Michael Keaton Batman.
Yeah.
Andy is the 1997 George Clooney nipple suit Batman. And
Hell
Tim
yeah,
is the 2008 Christian Bale Batman. Kev was supposed to be Lego Batman. But when I started working on it, it became more disturbing as more identifiable details were added under the mask. In hindsight, it would have made more sense to just have everyone unmasked. So thank you for that. You made me laugh very loud.
Wow, we got really cool. You just gave us really cool wiki notes that when
Exactly.
somebody does an in review of our in reviews, they'll be like, and here's this really cool fact tidbit,
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Before we get into this, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know you can watch this show live on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames every Tuesday. You can watch it later on youtube.com/kindoffunny or roosterteeth.com. You can also listen to it as a podcast. Just search your favorite podcast service for Kind of Funny in Review, and we'll be right there for you. If you want to get the show ad-free, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunny to help us out financially, just like our Patreon producers, Muhammad, and Al Tribesman did. We appreciate both of you very, very much. I feel like Batman in Review has been the golden goose, where it's like at some point we know it's gonna happen, and we know it's gonna be a hit. We know that it's gonna be a thrill ride the entire way through. Some good, some bad, but I feel like this is one of those franchises that we all knew that once we did MCU in Review and that worked out, that at some point we were gonna get here. And I'm very happy to be here with you, gentlemen. With that, we've had many different podcasts, many different in review podcasts within podcasts. And there's been a lot of questions about what podcasts within podcasts are going to be parts of this show. All right. And now I'm just going to throw out a couple options for you guys and just flow and just see where we're all at.
Choice.
Where we're all at. And not really, but I want the illusion of choice.
I don't want a choice. I just want you to be like, here's the thing.
Yeah, and that's what it's kind of like Uncharted 4, where it's like you kind of could choose dialogue stuff, but it didn't really affect anything, right?
It affected you here. It affected you here in the heart. And
Exactly.
what you felt and what your favorite moments were.
This
That's
is
what's
my
gonna
Nathan
happen here.
Drake.
Exactly.
So, of course, going through these movies, we are going to rank the best Batmobile. Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
We are going to rank the best bat suit. We are going to do Ragu Bagu. But instead of this being volume whatever it would be, Greg Miller,
Sure.
it is Ragu Roga, because we are ranking the Rogues Gallery of Batman.
Okay.
So get ready for that theme song, Andy.
What the fuck is
Ragu
that?
Roga.
What is
a
Rogues
Rogues
Gallery?
like Batman's Rogues Gallery. It's his bad guys.
Yeah, he's like his little club of bad guys.
But I'm just gonna throw this out there. Couldn't we
Please.
also just use the alternate version of bad to just be like Ragu bad guys talk bad guys? We're still talking about the Rogues Gallery, right?
That's a
We
great
could.
point right there, and that's why this will be volume 14. Ragu Bagu.
Cool.
Ragu
Great.
Bagu. It's been a while since we've done Ragu
Greg's playing
Bagu.
Telltale's Walking Dead. That's fine. That's fine. We also have Ragu Bat Guys.
So many.
I like
Bad
that.
guys.
Do I have to take notes on all this?
Guys.
Yeah, Greg, this is all you because I have not been paying attention.
Fucking hell. All right.
We have my personal favorite,
5.
Ragu Alf.
Oh, my God.
What's
I
Red
see.
Alf Alf?
Rad guys talk Alf guys.
Yeah, Alfred. We had to rank
Oh,
Alfred.
Alfred's.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
You have this written down. Can you Slack this to me so I can? Jesus. Okay.
And then the most important one is one that
the sixth one.
is one that Joey and Gia came up with, and this one's called Gotham's Finest. Now, the concept for this is you find the thing that is most surprisingly appealing to you about this movie.
Oh,
All
Okay.
right. And it could be something you're attracted to, someone you're attracted to.
I like this
anything.
a lot.
You can think outside. This is kind of made for Nick in a lot of ways.
I was gonna say,
Like,
be
for
careful.
example,
Nick, this sounds like the one we're gonna have to edit out every episode when you say stuff. So be careful.
Okay, sure.
yeah. To start off this episode for what this Batman movie is, their example is the shocking Russian disguise for Catwoman is the Gotham's Finest thing. The runner-up, they did want to give a shout out to Batman's incredibly tiny nipples.
Yeah, his little BBs.
Yeah, so that's the starting point. We'll get there later.
Your guys' like obsession with nipple size is very, very disappointing. I just want you.
It's just it's not so much the ones that are on the bigger side, Kevin. It's the ones that are impossibly small that some of us are fixated on.
I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable.
It could be a puppy's nipple.
Nope.
How many nipples do puppies have? Because I think Moose has 5, and it's kind of weird.
No,
seven syllables.
they're
He
even.
definitely has an even number of them. He doesn't have.
I can only find 5.
The fifth one is Doink Doink.
Doink doink. Wait, real quick. So they liked her Russian outfit?
They found it
sorry, real
appealing.
quick. Andy, hit the theme song for Gotham's Finest.
Gotham's Finest.
Thank you. What's up, everybody?
good.
Welcome to the
That's
podcast.
good.
With a
That was
podcast
good.
called Gotham's Finest, where we rank our secret delights.
Yeah, exactly.
From the Batman movie we watched. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, along with a live audience consisting of Nick, Tim, Kevin, and Andy. So far on Gotham's Finest, for episode 1, Joey and Gia have listed Catwoman's Russian accent as their standout secret delight of this, followed closely by Adam West's small nipples.
Yeah.
You gotta love it. Greg, I am about to slack you.
Thank you.
Very long
This is
list.
great. I like making magic with you, and I appreciate
Yeah.
this.
We've got. I know that at points we've had 3 podcasts within the podcast. We'd be like, "That's too much, guys."
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but Andy,
here's the thing.
this
I
is
think
Batman.
that most of these are first off, it's Batman. We need
It's
to show
Batman,
some
Andy.
goddamn respect.
Show some
Second
fucking
off,
respect.
a lot of these are just ranking things that are like, I think it'll be easier. So there's no MVP. If the other ones pop up, they pop up. You know what I mean? It's
That's
like,
fair.
We got,
That's
we,
fair.
we
We've
got.
already started, and we're in the tree of Batman trust here. Tim, what's your Gotham's Finest? What do you like out of this one, huh?
Oh, I mean, we don't all need to bring one to the table. They brought that. If
Yeah, we
if we're
did.
gonna combat it, I agree with them. You know what I mean? I didn't.
So wait,
I
is
don't
it the
wanna talk
costume
about
or
it.
the accent?
I don't want to talk about Robin.
It's the accent. They like the accent.
Oh, they like the accent.
Oh, I thought it was the costume because I was like,
I
this
thought it
is
was the
not-
costume.
It was the costume.
I will
Oh,
say,
it was the
It was
costume?
They liked a Russian costume.
They like that
Costume.
the leopard skin or whatever
Wait,
it was.
but in what
costume.
way was that Russian?
It was just a
'Cause leopard-
She just had Lara Croft breasts because of the way bras were back in 1966. The breasts
Catnips.
were doing all the work.
Also, she like
Catnips.
changed. She changed clothes multiple times, right? Like she was in a
Well, she
90s
always
one
had, like,
point.
they all get it. All the Russian outfits. The costume.
But they're not. They're not Russian. They were just outfits. Like she wasn't wearing
You
one
don't
of them big
understand,
hats.
Simple
Yeah,
mind.
yeah,
Simple.
simple mind.
Today we're talking about Batman, the movie, released on July 30th, 1966, premiering at the Paramount Theater in Austin, Texas. Which, Greg, what is that?
really?
Oh, Austin, Texas is a city inside of Texas where Rooster Teeth is based. They have a bridge, not Rooster Teeth, the city of Austin. They have a bridge, and underneath are a bunch of bats. And they come out sometime around sunset, and for fucking 4 hours plus or minus sunset, morons line up to watch these stupid fucking bats fly out.
What
And
the
everybody's
fuck
like,
are you
"Oh,
talking
bats!"
about?
And they
They're
all-
again.
Which one? I'm sorry, Andy. What am I talking about?
Morons? What do you mean? It's a spectacle, Greg. It's something you
It's
show up for.
fucking bats, everybody. A bunch of bats flew out from underneath a bridge.
It's like witnessing the aurora borealis or something.
At this time of year.
Seventh wonder of the world.
That's in the other Austin facts is it's really hot, and they got that wing pluckers. They got a pluckers we like a lot.
Oh yeah, Greg.
Towards Greg is the Paramount Theater was where we shot the Gauntlet season 2.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So we were at this place that this movie premiered. That's fun. That's real fun. The
We were
film
there
hit theaters 2 months after the last episode of the first season of the television series. So I didn't realize that. I thought
That's
this was
crazy
like
to me.
end of the show type situation.
That's what I always thought too. I was watching this. I mean, obviously we all probably saw this on like cable when we were kids, just playing over and over again. I always just assumed this was like the last thing they did, or a last ditch effort to try to revitalize the series. But man, it's weird that it came out after in 66, because I always go by like the Catwoman. I'm like, I remember there being like 2 Catwomen. Apparently there were 3.
So the facts there for you, Nick, are as follows. Catwoman in the 1966 live action television series Batman is portrayed by Julie Newmar and Eartha Kitt. Newmar portrayed Catwoman in the first and second season. Kitt portrayed her in the third season. The feature film has Lee Merriweather. All 3 Catwoman incarnations are described by comic writer Mark Adreco in an afterword to Batman omnibus as being akin to a Darren and Bewitched bit of silent recasting. And his colleague liked how the story leaves no one out, and the readers got it immediately, thus reflecting how the change of actress was never specifically addressed.
Interesting.
Even though it's pretty interesting when you look at the 3 of them.
Yeah, I mean, you have to put it in context. I don't remember, like, I don't know if Batman was super popular when it was on TV. I don't know if you have facts about that. I know people liked it, but it only lasted 3 seasons, and then people seem to have lost interest in it, right? So it's just so hard to put into place, like, whether people wanted to be on that show or not, or if they were like, oh, this is just a gig and we got to get out of this. Because like Batman, obviously back then, I don't think was nearly as culturally relevant as it is now, probably until the TV show happened. And then that probably put a lot of people, like, I remember that was one of the first times I remember hearing about Batman and not seeing it on a comic book cover, was just seeing those old episodes of the show running. And when I was a kid, I don't know how you felt about it when you were a kid, Greg, but like when I was a kid, I was just like, I don't like this that much. It's very strange. It doesn't seem like it's taking itself seriously at all, and it makes very little sense. And also that I was always kind of taken aback by how the rogues gallery all just sort of were like, we're just going to be zany and wacky and not really have too much characterization. Specifically the Riddler and the Joker, I always thought were like super interchangeable in the show, because they would always just break out into laughter. I was like, I don't like this Riddler at all. I prefer the Riddler who's like the thinking man's Riddler from the animated show.
Sure. Well, that's why it didn't work for you, is that we're comparing it directly to the animated show.
Exactly, which Batman was, I think, a much better representation.
I remember watching, obviously, growing up, watching Adam West Batman here. In syndication on Fox, on TV Land, at Grandma Miller's house, in between things, right? And the ideas behind it were fun as you were a young kid, I think, as I was, of like, the gray and blue matched the toys I had from the DC Superpowers line, which matched the comic at the time, which matched that Batman who did smile more and wasn't like the down gritty Batman you think of now. And then in 89, Tim Burton changes everything. He brings that Dark Knight, he brings that black, he brings that tortured soul thing that had been obviously referenced in comics, and Batman had dealt with serious issues before then. I'm not trying to put it all on him, but in Dark Knight obviously Returns, but made it into a mainstream phenomenon of like, this is what Batman is. This is who Batman is. And that changed the game so much, I think, in terms of who he was and what you expected from those things. And so, the animated series unto itself being such a kid's cartoon, but is so top level and so well done, and gives such a, I think, generation for us defining performance of who Batman is and who the Rogues Gallery is and who those characters are, that, it is. When we sat down to watch the movie last night, and I was talking to Jen about it, who's, I think, seen pieces of it here or there, it was very much, I was like, think of this as a cartoon come to life, and not the animated series come to life, but just a cartoon version of Batman come to life, right, where you go through and it's just nonsense, and like none of this stuff's going to make sense, and it's going to be goofy, and you're not into the situations as you would be in
like Looney Tunes. Yeah.
It's very
when I was little, this was actually my introduction to Batman as a character, period. Like, I somehow owned this movie and I watched it a whole bunch, and I just, being a dumb kid, I loved the bad guys so much. I thought they were fun, and like that was my introduction to who these characters are, period. And it's funny because, like, a question I have for you, Greg, is we're talking about all this like 89 Batman obviously being in motion picture, at least making him a lot darker.
And again, mainstream. I think mainstream projecting the darkness to it, right?
But that's my question is, at what point did that shift happen? Because like, so Dark Knight Returns, the comic in the 80s, that obviously that is kind of to this day the defining moment of Dark Knight. Before that, was it always just zany stuff, or were there comics that like were?
Oh no, there was comics that were like, that were serious and had that tenor to it, but I really don't feel like do you have it pulled up in front of you? When did Dark Knight Returns drop? 86. Okay. So you feel like, I think Dark Knight Returns is the one that starts to really shift Batman in that way. And I think even when you look at Batman Death in the Family, which was 88, when they kill Robin, when they kill Jason Todd, right? That is, you're seeing a tenor before 89 Batman. I think some of it's influenced by for the Death in the Family. I'm just going to look it up because I want to make sure I'm right.
I was gonna say also you have the original Batman comics from like way back in the day were darker.
Oh,
I don't
sure.
think I don't think it was until they introduced Robin and they wanted to have a nicer, kind of friendlier character closer to Superman that they decided to have this like smiling Batman. Originally, he was supposed to be like this kind of like, if you go back and look at those original images, he's in the black and gray costume and he's kind of like a more wraith-ish.
Interesting.
I mean, as far as you can push that for a kid's comic book in like,
I was going to say it's still a superhero adventure, right? Yeah, that you're doing.
He wasn't dropping motherfuckers off a roof or anything like that, but he wasn't like running around with his pal, like joking around and like, I think they made a concerted effort because they wanted to make a kids show, if I'm not mistaken. They wanted to make something that was fun and silly and had a lot of colors and
this had to be a kid show.
Yeah,
This couldn't have been for adults.
No,
going through the facts more here.
Robin debuts in 1940. So, I mean, again, like I think, and he was brought in obviously to get children even more involved with it and see that they could replicate something to it. And sorry, just to make sure I'm clear, it was December 88. So for Batman Death of the Family, I was close. And then June 89 for the movie, the motion picture of Batman.
But what I want to know, chat, is like someone will find this, is like when was like the first iteration before, like between Batman coming out as what he was in like the 40s or whatever, and then Dark Knight Returns in 86? Like, was there a comic book before that like had that kind of tone? But while you look for that, directed by Leslie Martinson, dominant TV and film director of that era, directed many things including Maverick, PT 109, Batman, Mission Impossible, Mannix, Different Strokes, and the made-for-TV movie Rescue from Gilligan's Island.
Naturally,
I can't say I'm familiar with. But
Nice.
he also, and more importantly for us, directed 4 episodes. I'm sorry, Andy, of Small Wonder.
Hey,
yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Wonder she'll make.
Greg, do you remember that
show?
Come true.
Do you remember that escape, or what was it, Rescue from Gilligan's Island?
Fuck yeah, and they go back at the end. They get re-shipwrecked at the end. Spoilers.
It was great because that was the one where they go and it turns out they were in purgatory the entire time, and the smoke monster
No, that was Lost. You're thinking
was just totally left behind. They were like, we don't need the smoke monster anymore. Okay.
A budget of $1.5 million, a box office of $3.9 million, and a runtime of 1 hour and 44 minutes. God damn, why is it so long?
Huh? It is
long. Surprisingly,
it was
didn't win any Academy Awards. So
really? That's crazy. I was like 30 minutes in, I was like, this is a fun little adventure. This is stupid and silly, and like it's making me laugh because it's so dumb. And then I was like, dude, this movie needs to be like
over
maybe 80 minutes long. Like
we get 70. We get to the end of it where they've rescued the UN, and they could have just cut to a scene of the UN people back at the table talking, but instead we get 20 more minutes of him. And by the way, you gotta love the little gags. First off, shout out to everything being labeled in the Batcave. That was always the thing that made me laugh every single time when I was a kid. And then when they get to the end where the commissioner is like, Batman's on this, don't worry, the whole world's watching. And then it cuts to Batman and Robin, and Batman's in the bat suit, but he's wearing a doctor's gown, but the belt over it. It's and they're trying to read. They've got the machine that's going to separate all the dust particles.
The laboratory shit. It's so ridiculous.
It would be fine if there was a payoff to it, but the payoff is they fuck it up at the end. And Batman's let's just quietly leave. And just bounce out the window.
Like this reminds me of like
let's if we leave inconspicuously, let's go to the window, chum. They climb out the fucking window that everyone's looking at.
Batman just sort of explains it away, being like, this might be a great thing. But then Robin's like, but also may have ruined 8 people's lives, destroyed a couple countries. Anyway, let's just leave in the window.
It's just so bizarre because we're so used to I'm so used to seeing Batman in a totally different light, and this is obviously I have touchstones to this with like the ambiguously gay duo and I guess I'm trying to Barnacle Boy and Mermaid Man, in SpongeBob. So I have these touchstones to what this series was, but this is straight up just like Naked Gun. Like this is Leslie Nielsen just with silly parodies. Every riddle that came up, you're just sort of scratching your head, going, "What is going on?"
Well,
here?
that was always a hallmark, right? There was a couple hallmarks of the show, right? One was everything was labeled. One was the riddles were always such a leap in logic that you were like, "What the fuck?" Like at one point, he's like a banana pen, and you're like, "Yep, that makes
That's it.
that makes
Yeah.
total sense."
When they realize that all the bad guys are involved, and they're just like they're out at sea. Catwoman starts in the sea. I'm like, I'm fucking dying. Like, here's my thing with this movie: is it good? Hell no. Did I have a fucking blast? Absolutely.
Sure.
I've never been more distracted during an in-review movie though. Like, there's been some bad movies that we've watched, and it's always just like groan-inducing and just like, I want this to fucking end. And granted, I wanted this to end because it was a little too long, but I had a great time where it just felt like every single thing we wanted to comment on. Me, Gia, and Joey watched it together, and like so much about it feels like a parody, but at the same time is taking itself serious enough that it's like, no, like this is their, I don't know who the audience is for this, but they're really, really going hard into it. And I was there for the ride, and like I love what the movie is, which is extremely bizarre.
I was gonna say one of the other things that this movie does that is it always just kind of like simultaneously makes me laugh, but it kills the whole pacing of it. Is that anytime they have something where Batman and Robin are in peril and they didn't have enough money to get them out of peril, they just cut away, and then Batman has a line where he just explains that a porpoise gave its life to a king. Thank God for that porpoise. You're like, I don't remember seeing a porpoise explode. I mean, but that was always sort of like what they did in the show too, where it's like, thank God the sun blinked out for a second, Robin. Like,
the entire intro is like just so crash course, and you don't know what the fuck's going on. We're like, right? They're like, there's an inventor who's coming to Gotham. He's out in his boat. He has a distress call. We're going out to it. They get in the copter. They get out there. They get attacked by a shark. Then the shark explodes. Then they're giving a press conference in the commissioner's office. Like, what the fuck is happening in this movie?
I love the fact that on the way to it, this is one of the things that like you just don't see anymore, and you're never going to, because it's so antithetical to the character. But everyone in this universe loves Batman and Robin, and they give them carte blanche to do whatever. Like, they call the airport just random dudes, and they're like, ready the Batcopter, and like 5 guys that are working in a hangar are like, yeah, no problem. No, they're not hidden. They're not in the Batcave. Their shit's just at an airport. Like at an airport in the middle of like LAX, and they just roll right in. Everyone's like, "Hey, Batman!" And I was like, "What's up, guys?"
And by the way, it's great. It was definitely Robin in that copter. It wasn't a 48-year-old muscular man in the.
Also, when the shark, like, first off, let's just talk about the shark.
Are we just going to the plot? Let's do the plot.
Yeah, this is the plot. We're the graveyard.
I don't think we do this one beat by beat. Yeah.
So the opening credits start, and there's a weird ass fucking letter written to everyone watching this movie, where they thank crime fighters who are the real crime fighters, and police, and then lovers of cinema, and then lovers of anything. You're like, all right, cool.
I guess we're here for it. But when Batman is fighting this shark, which, first off, worst looking shark I've ever goddamn seen, then all of a sudden you start thinking like, Batman's fighting a shark on a helicopter right now. This is ridiculous. And then it's like, oh, let's get the bat shark repellent. That's ridiculous. Then Robin comes down, and it's just like, why does he solve this problem the way Kevin would solve the problem? Which is, instead of just doing it the simplest way, it's like, no. I'm going to hang upside down on these ropes. Just because it's going to look cooler for a second.
Like pillow person hanging upside down from the rope they're doing.
You can't
like
hand
the cuts
someone
in this movie.
You can't hand someone something on a rope ladder without like having to go on the same area they are, you know? So you have to drop down. It's the most logical thing to do.
Or you need really long arms. The whole intro though, after you get that personal letter where everybody's sort of in their colored light spotlight, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like it felt like a stage play. Like I was expecting like audience to clap whenever the characters are being like introduced, and they'd like walk out and be like, oh, and they look at the crowd. Like, it was so bizarre. It was so weird. And then just really quick, when we do have that helicopter scene, the multiple different sea life repellents was like a great little addition, you know, because it was also, I don't know, the
manta ray,
bunch of silly ass shit. But why did Robin take 3 hours to get down this ladder? Robin was like the slowest thing ever. It was so funny.
I think a lot of the stuff in this movie is dictated by budget. And they were like, we don't have a ton of budget to do action scenes, so let's show them doing stuff that the audience will think will be dangerous, but like let's take our time with it. Like that, there's them climbing over the roof to get into the villain's hideout on the pier, which takes forever. They show them going up, they show them coming back down the other side, and then they go in, and then he's like, Robin, you got to get out of here. Then they show Robin go back out the window and start climbing back up. I'm like, we can edit these things out, guys. You edit to move the pace along in these action sequences. But I think there was someone in this team of directors and people that made the show that just thought it was hilarious to watch these characters like walk up a building or like climb down the length of this ladder like twice. I think they just thought it was hilarious to do this stuff. And this movie could literally, you could cut maybe 20 minutes out and it would actually be a relatively engaging, entertaining like farce. But instead you get, I just remember, when I watched this, I don't think I ever got to the end of it when I was a kid. I think I always got bored right around the point where he's running around on the pier with the bomb. And I'm like, I just can't watch this.
He runs into the same nuns twice.
Twice.
That's what you're talking about. Of just like, someone thought this was funny. They're like, they need to run into one more comical thing. Then let's do them all again.
Yeah. Like, the ducks at the end. But it's all worth it for the line where he's like, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. You're like, thanks, Batman.
But Nick, you talking about the budget and the action scenes. What's funny about it is the Batmobile obviously is in the TV show, and then later the Bat Cycle comes back as well in the show. But the boat and the copter they didn't have access to for obvious reasons, because that's where the budget of this movie went into play.
Right.
But there are episodes in seasons 2 and 3 that use them still, and it's just footage from this movie.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I just love that idea.
I mean, you're talking about a budget show to begin with. And what's even funnier is that they shot this like an episode of the show. They didn't make a ton of, like usually if you had a movie version of a TV show, you would try to shoot it a little bit more cinematically. And granted, this was 66, so it wasn't like they were using a ton of modern film techniques. But even like Andy, you talk about it being a stage play. Well, one of the reasons why it feels like that is because everything's shot in super like deep depth of field. The camera's usually stationary toward one angle. They're not really we have to this day. I have no idea what the other side of the Batcave looks like. You're just constantly staring at everything from that one angle because it was shot kind of like a multi-cam.
Yeah.
An interesting thing there is the Time Warrior in chat brings up a good Easter egg here. Is worth remembering that the film would have been the first time many people would have seen Batman in color. The TV series was in color, but not many people had color TVs in 1966.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. So they were showing off those colors at the beginning. It was a tech demo at the beginning. Like, check out this red, like this yellow is insane, dude.
But it's weird. I tried to look up the original aspect ratio this was shot in, because I was like, oh, this was like the version I watched was pretty much 16:9.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I wonder if they shot this wider. I wonder if, because to put Batman on the big screen for the first time, I wonder if they did like a anamorphic or like a 240 or 239 aspect ratio. And they did 185, which is barely a little bit wider than 16:9, which when you watch it on screen, everything feels just so crowded and close up. But it is just like an extended episode of the TV show. I just wonder, I'm like, why wouldn't they just go for 90 minutes? Just a solid, like 90-minute. Who was like a 145? That's the sweet spot.
This was the style of the time. You know what I mean? Let it breathe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but so we have Batman fighting the shark, and it's like this whole thing, Robin coming down, the most complicated. I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? But then, the shark explodes.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when the shark first explodes, there's a moment where you're like,
wait, why? Did
the shark explode?
Yeah,
or was that just like
a really dramatic fall? Yeah.
And then later,
they follow up, and we're like, oh, it exploded. That's what happened.
Well, in the press conference, someone brings it up, like, what? Why did it explode? And he's like, I can't answer that.
It's so fascinating. They were like, we need to throw everything in the kitchen sink into this. So you have every major bad guy from the Batman series in this, and you would just never see that anymore. I don't think we've seen this many villains in a superhero movie ever. at this point, right? I don't know. Maybe when some of the Avengers,
yeah, for sure. Oh, you mean like in our entire lives? No,
I just mean like a Batman standalone. You would, I just think of the ones I grew up with. You would only ever have two. Right. They would pick the main villain, and then like the side villain would be like Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze, or you'd have the Penguin and Catwoman, or you just have the Joker, and you have Bane. That was pretty much it, right? Bane and some side characters. But in this one, they were like, we need to hit this. We got one chance, guys. We got to hit this hard. Let's put all of them in a room together, and they'll just act like complete and total psychotic idiots the entire time, and it'll just be so fun to watch. And
huge fan of when Joker goes out and they go off to like kidnap people and be bad. Joker puts on a mask as if you wouldn't know that's the Joker. He just puts on the little domino mask.
Well, huge fan of the fact that Cesar Romero gave such little fucks to this that he didn't even shave his mustache.
That was his touchstone. Yeah. So whenever he's the Joker, his mustache is always there.
But I love that it's like, all right, who are the bad guys in this movie? Okay, we have Catwoman, we have the Joker, we have the Riddler, we have the Penguin. We also have pirates number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, and it's just like,
yo ho!
Like, I will say this: when I was
pirates.
When I was a kid, I always thought
they're doing
on
a lot
the
of sea stuff. Remember, they had to take off the inventor in the sea.
Well, Tim, literally
or something.
Every time back in the day, whenever they were doing something, they had henchmen that were like themed for that thing. So if it was like an airplane thing, they were all like, it was nautical. That was just what they're not nautical, but aviation.
Was the inventor guy just drunk the whole time?
I think he was hopped up on opioids. Yeah,
God, dude, when they're fucking like check dragon. Bring him his tea. He doesn't realize he's talking to the Joker. Okay, and then like, are we still in this blasted fog? You're like, yeah, we are. And then he goes outside, and it's just a dude pumping a fog machine and going doing
the horn.
Killed me. And I think that was like the most intricate scene in the entire fucking movie. It's like that looked like it took a lot of work.
The budget went there.
Someone high-fived their friend, just like, we got it in. It fucking worked. I told you it'd fucking work.
I do. I want to give a shout out to Burgess Meredith, though, who, when I was a kid, I had this inkling, but now watching this, I'm like, he's the best in my opinion in this whole movie. He is the only one that really nails his character as Penguin and really brings something different to it. I think everyone else just
like about Catwoman.
Catwoman's fine, but she just occasionally goes, like she just randomly will purr or hiss at things. But like Burgess Meredith, and that voice and the fact that he's always got the cigarette hanging out of his mouth. And he was just always my favorite. He was always the one that I thought was the most unique and nailed it. And then you see Danny DeVito come with Penguin. You're like, oh, that seems like an evolution of what Burgess Meredith did.
I got so tired of it. I got so tired of the wah, 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 wah.
I love it. I love the part where he breaks into the UN and they have that practical effect where the umbrella spins and spits out gas everywhere. I'm like, This is cool, man. This is like silly and fun and actually super creative versus the Riddler's paragraphs of information they expected kids to read. Paragraphs of information in the sky.
That's great. I loved it. I loved how many times they did it. It's like, we get it. You can do these fucking riddles in the sky.
Again, the joke of the first one, you're like, what's yellow and whatever, and then the camera pans down and there's another paragraph riddle underneath it. I think that was always done for gags as well.
See, that's the thing is I think, as both a kid and then an adult, like, what I like about it, and don't get me wrong, I think you can pick your favorites, and I think Burgess Meredith does a fantastic job as being the Penguin. But I also think that, while granted, not the iterations I would think of in terms of these characters, I also think that everybody's across the board awesome at what they're doing. Like, even though the Riddler laughs like the Joker, like, I appreciate that that's his version of it, right? Mm-hmm. Cesar Romero's Joker is iconic, I think. Catwoman, even though it moves around a lot, and I would say that Lee Merriweather is probably my least favorite Catwoman from the 66 series or whatever, or you know what I mean, the West series. She's still like, I get it, and I think I actually like her doing the double agent thing, and I like the chemistry she has with Adam West.
And I think that was done but I think I read a little note, Tim, I don't know if you have this, the whole point of like there being more of that was because Adam West was like, I want to do more Bruce Wayne stuff. I need to if I'm going to do this movie, I want to be out of the Batsuit as much as possible so people can see my face, because I think he wasn't getting the recognition that I think he wanted from that series.
That's all anyone was ever seeing was like, his chin and maybe half of his eyes at times, because things never lined up.
I'm going to say this, though. I have a soft spot and a special place in my heart for this costume. I love it. Yeah. I love that. I never noticed it before, but every time I watch something like that's like, actually HD, because when I was a kid, you watching, shit, you didn't give a fuck. But watching, I'm like, the fact that it's two-toned, I never caught that before. Like, it's purple and blue. I love the details of the nose and stuff, and I just love that he can move around. Yeah, the eyebrow. I mean, their eyebrows I always caught, which I always thought was hilarious that they painted those on for effect, and to have some level of emotion in the cowl. But I just love that he actually can move around in this thing and turn his head, and the fight sequences. Like, and you forget that Adam West is actually like kind of an imposing Batman. I think he was 6'2". And just when you look at him next to what's that?
I don't know that he's not with anything.
No, I just mean like as opposed to everyone else around him, like he's taller and he's bigger, and I don't know. I wish they would go back to like what Greg's talking about, like eventually have the balls to do a Batman where he's just in like a cloth costume and looks a little bit more shabby like this, and just is not like this that it's cheesy, but find a modern version of this and go forward with it.
Adam West, like, you got to do some push-ups, bro. You have like the weakest chest I've ever seen on any human being. Like, it's so weird seeing a Batman that's just like this little figure.
He was fit. He was fit back then. He was fit.
I'm sure he did a lot of cardio. I'm sure he did a lot of running and stuff. Like Adam West, he's a healthy dude, but his chest was just non-existent. Like, it looked like a child's chest.
You have to also remember that if you put, now granted, a lot of the guys that play these characters now are super bowed out, but like if you put any of those guys in that sort of like not so tight fitting costume, they're not gonna look like that. Remember, everyone's got freaking fake abs and chest and shit now. So don't disrespect Adam West, dude. You put that 89, right? Look at him right there.
That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite Simpson bits of all time. That I think as a child I was like too young to get, but you watch it later when they go to the auto show and he's there with the Batmobile, and he's like, "My costume, pure West." You know what I mean? And why doesn't Batman dance anymore? Just keep smiling and back away, kids.
Yeah, God bless it. And also just shout out to the Batmobile in this, which was always the one. I always loved the design of this Batmobile because it was just so. You tell they maybe put $20 on this thing and some paint, but fucking A, it was always so cool. And again, I know Greg, we have a special touchstone to this growing up with the series, but yeah, I love this. I love this rendition of everything.
Andy, hit me with the best Batmobile song.
Vroom, vroom, Batmobile.
Good job,
thanks, Andy. So I think we can all agree right now the 66 Batmobile is the best Batmobile.
So far, yeah.
I don't think it'll last too long. A fun fact about the Batmobile, actually, is not too far from my house there's a someone's house that they've dedicated to being this like Halloween? Sci-fi nerd museum, and on weekends, not in Corona time, but on weekends you can go and like walk around their house, and it's a museum that has all these props from nerd movies. Like in the window there's a giant Starship Enterprise, and he has
a lot of Back to the Future stuff.
Yeah, definitely. This is his car though, and it's just parked outside at all times.
I drove by it over the weekend.
Cool.
What's funny is
Friday.
They always get in it, like they just jump in it, and this I think I don't think I ever caught it. It does, because the Penguin gets out. He just opens the door. At one point, I was like, "Well, that thing has a door." I always thought they were like welded shut, like the Dukes of Hazzard, but they're not. It's just the door opens. So great.
Why would you need to?
It was based on what? Were we? Futura? Something like that. I don't know.
Where were we? Mm-hmm. What we blew up the shark. We were in the press conference. I still, Andy, I need to hear a plot song, please.
Plot.
Plot time.
All right, so yeah, rejoining it, right? So yeah, we have the Commissioner Gordon. We're gonna give this press conference there. Batman's answering questions, except he's not. Batman just fucking totally PR handling this and not answering specific questions until Catwoman, disguised as someone from the Moscow Bugle, steps up and wants Batman to remove his mask, and he won't. But he's clearly turned on by this woman. He's clearly into this fucking
Moscow Bugle. The funniest thing.
I love how everyone was like,
"How dare you?" Yeah, how dare you?
Like, turn off, take off your mask, and he's like, "Hey, she's from a different place. She doesn't know.
She doesn't understand."
It's for as poorly. I mean, I say poorly loosely, obviously, because again, it's coming off season 1 of the show was super successful, so it's coming off of this huge success. Everybody knows Batman. The fact that they introduced nothing at the start of this fucking movie, right, of who any of these people are. Aunt Harriet is in 2 scenes and never ever mentioned. You know what I mean? Of like who the fuck
so
she is.
Funny. And did they just put her in there to give Alfred something to do? Because is she actually from the comic books? Because I always thought that was. She became like Batgirl's like kind of Alfred, right? At a certain point, or am I crazy in thinking that? Because eventually they introduced Batgirl, right?
Yeah, season 3, Batgirl shows up.
Right.
Yeah, I don't remember her. I think the one.
A big turning point for the show.
Timing wise, this came out after season 1.
Yes,
right after season 1. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, this is what I'm going off. This is what I thought. Yeah, okay. This is what I thought, and I'm getting it now from 66batmanmania.com, right? Aunt Harriet was added to the series partly so that someone else in the house to prevent the two heroes from spending all their time in their Batman and Robin costumes, and partly because they did not want people to think they were both gay lovers. That's what I'd always heard was the rumor of like, oh, we need a woman in the house, which of course makes no sense and changes nothing about these two grown men hanging out in a basement all the time, or
especially a woman in her 90s. You know, what I mean? It's like that's not gonna get these two boys to stop misbehaving. But
I was shocked about that Robin had pants. I thought he was just fucking pantsless, and then I was like, oh no, he's wearing little tights.
Little leg.
It's cold out there on the sea. I want to give a shout out.
Like the color of his thighs, it's harder to identify him.
This might be a piece of trivia for the next movie, but I never realized that Alfred's real name in this is Alan Napier. Is that his name?
Yeah.
I think it's Alan Napier. Did they take Napier and give it to Jack Napier?
Great question. I wondered the same thing when I saw that too, and I couldn't figure out how the Jack would have come about other than Jack Nicholson. So
Jack of, this is Jack Joker. I don't know. Deck of cards. Who the hell knows? But yeah. Anyway, you guys will figure that out next week. You guys know.
This for Ragu Alf. I think we can put Alfred pretty low.
This one?
Wait, you didn't like this, Alfred?
Are you kidding me, dude? Alfred goes on recon in this.
And he's got that.
Like, you have to drive the Batmobile, and Robin will be there, and you guys have to. And he's like, got it. And like when they fucking leave the restaurant in the horse-drawn carriage, and 2 seconds later the Batmobile rolls by. Robin shotgun this old man with the domino mask with his glasses over the domino mask.
See, my thing is with this Alfred, I was like, all right, so he's not creepy. He's trying to be cool, and he's like, Robin, you're being an idiot. Like we need to fucking watch them. And I'm like, good for you, Alfred. You're looking out for him. And then the second time they do it, I'm like, oh no, you are creepy. You fucking
he does the
creep, Alfred.
He's doing
he
the
wants
eye
to
thing.
see some fucking. He wants to see some fucking.
At that, wouldn't you at that point in your age? You know,
dude, if I was Alfred,
funny.
I'd always want to see some fucking.
Jesus.
What's the point of living in a mansion?
You're not Alfred, Nick. I'm very happy you're
not. Moscow Bugle Catwoman goes back to base where guess what, everybody? It's all the villains we've been talking about, and they're there, and they have kidnapped this inventor. This is like it's like such a loose plot line. There's this inventor who is an idiot, who's a complete fucking idiot, and he thinks he's trapped in fog, like we already talked about. There's a guy with the fog machine. Joker gives him his tea or whatever. But they're there. They have this invention that they're gonna use, and it's gonna be fucking crazy. And they're super stoked about it. And they've teamed up to take out Batman. Oh, I skipped the part where we already talked about it too. Of like back at once the press conference is over and everybody leaves, Chief O'Hara. Batman, Robin, and Commissioner Gordon put it all together in the way we were talking. See, like as if they're out to sea. That's got to be part of it. You know what I mean?
I love it.
There were several moments that I only looked at Robin and trying to see him keep a straight face because you know that all of them knew that how ridiculous all this sequence was. So I just kept looking at him and he was just trying to keep it together, man.
Anytime they're doing the riddles, it's just absurd. It is like. The lines of logic that they use are just like you're making that up on the spot right here. Like it wasn't written down a script.
I was gonna say it does sound like ad-libbing, right? Like the way they leave no, there's not even a breath, right? Where it is like clearly it's an egg, right? It's the only logical answer. Like you know what I mean? Like there's not even like I'm gonna think or process this. It's like you got it, old chum. That's what it's gonna happen.
It's so funny, and like one thing, and not to try to add a depth to this movie or even look for a depth in this movie that's clearly not there. But I just wish there was a little more consistency between Batman and Robin of who's the smart one and who's the one the other one's kind of just like you silly Robin, you silly Batman. I feel like they flip it every riddle, and it's just like they are both the same character at any given moment in this movie, and it just can flip at a moment's notice.
Yeah, that's true.
Keeps you on your toes. You know what I mean? That's how films were made back in the day.
Yeah, you're right.
So all the villains are up to no good, and Batman and Robin go back to the Batcave, and this is where they're using all the equipment there and the Bat computer and the Bat things, and this is when he's like, "Yeah, give me." Sorry,
There's just a magnifying glass.
Totally, that's the thing, right? Where it turns out while they were up there fighting the shark, or right before they fought the shark, Robin was taking photos. They look at the photo. There's nothing in the photo where the ship they were going to save should have been. Then they magnify glass it. They find a buoy out there. They then use the Bat computer and its coordinates to identify that there's no navigational buoy beacon there. So clearly this is one that's there to give them an illusion similar to a mirage. And so that's the only thing that makes sense. This is how they got us. They're up to no good. We got to figure out what their plan is. This is when they get the Bat boat. They shoot the fuck over there. There's a ding. They shoot the fuck over there, right? They get there and they're like, yep, there. They climb onto the buoy and they unscrew it with one thing and pull it off. And there's the projector in there. Meanwhile, Penguin and crew have readied the submarine, the Penguin submarine, which is adorable. It looks like a penguin, and where it should be the propeller on the back is flippy feet.
I love
awesome.
And
it's got, and when you come up for the periscope, which happens over and fucking over again, right? It's the fucking like penguin head that looks around. Fucking horrifying. Great. Yeah. So yeah, they come over there. Batman and Robin are on the buoy. They see that they're on the buoy. They turn on like a magnet on the buoy, so boom, they're locked into because of their utility belts. And they're like, "What are we gonna do, Batman?"
Why don't they take off their utility belts?
That was my first thought too, especially since the clip is front and center on both of them, but it doesn't matter. They bust out a frequency jammer kind of thing or whatever. So Batman's using that and they're firing torpedoes. Joker's super excited. Riddler's super excited. Batman's able to explode the torpedoes by using this, but when what would be the last torpedo is fired at them, the batteries are dead in the thing. And how will Batman and Robin get out of this jam? And it very much is.
Yeah, the TV, they cut the commercial
call back
break
to the TV, right? Where the TV did this all the time too, and it even had the cliffhangers, right? Where it would be, how will the Cape Crusader get out of this? What will happen to the boy Wonder? Find out next time. Same bat channel, same bat time.
Because this episode is brought to you by We Have Cool Friends. Ladies and gentlemen, we have so many cool friends, and some of them have actually been Batman before. We're doing Batman in review right now, but you can go over to youtube.com/kindoffunny or just search your favorite podcast service for We Have Cool Friends. We'd actually prefer if you go to the podcast version, just so you can subscribe. We really need the help over there to get those podcast numbers up for our interview show, We Have Cool Friends. We've interviewed Troy Baker, who has been Batman on a couple occasions, both as Lego Batman and as Batman in the Telltale video game series. We also have Will Friedle, who is the voice of Batman Beyond. Very cool stuff. I'm looking at the list. There's a chance someone else has been Batman at some point. I don't know if Nolan North has ever been Batman, but Greg did an interview with him last week. You can check that out too. We have Cameron Cuff, who might be Batman one day. You know, go check that out. That was a good interview. We got
Jack Quaid is in The Boys, and he's on this week.
Wow, that's exciting stuff. Jack Quaid coming up. Quaid, start the reactor. Love it.
Start the reactor.
But anyways,
ask me if he ever gets that. Ask me if he ever gets that. If people come up to him and say, "Quaid, start the reactor."
So yeah, go check it out. We Have Cool Friends. Back to the show.
Kindoffunny.com/WHCF takes you right to all the links where you could subscribe on the podcast service of your choice.
Oh, crazy.
I digress. Final torpedoes coming at them. They're still there. The batteries are dead. How are we going to get out of this one? There's a big rumble. We see the submarine. It's a hit. We did it. And then we come up and no, we didn't. Batman and Robin are getting the fuck out of there because it hit a porpoise. A porpoise gave its life. A dolphin. And they say it in such an awkward way where they're like, the almost human porpoise.
Yeah.
They're talking about how smart the porpoise is, that it knew Batman and Robin were in trouble and it needed to take this
and it
bump
sacrificed itself. Ridiculous.
Kevin, I expect,
or else they'd be dead.
Kevin, if a torpedo is ever coming at me and Tim, will you sacrifice yourself for it, or are you just gonna laugh as we explode?
No. I'll save Tim and let you.
You're not
Kevin
gonna
take one.
Kevin
for the
will tell the torpedo to go slower so you can record it.
You fuckers.
So, worth pointing out here, they got this invention, and their whole plan is to take over the fucking world and hold the world ransom
by taking the UN. Right?
Exactly. They're going to go there and take down the UN and do all this different stuff. But they need a cover story, and they've decided to get the heat off them and distract Batman and keep him busy while this is coming up. And so what they've come up is that they are going to kidnap a millionaire. Obviously, Bruce Wayne. They're going to get him. That'll get them off this whole... The Batman will be so preoccupied with this that they can then go act on the UN kind of thing. That's the plan they hatch after this torpedo thing goes wrong. Meanwhile, Batman and Robin...
When they said they were going to kidnap a rich person, I got so excited and was like, Paula, it's going to be Bruce Wayne because they don't know that he's Bruce Wayne. And she just did not care even a little bit.
I can imagine literally all of our significant others watching this movie for 5 minutes and then just not even subtly getting up and leaving the room.
Jen definitely drifted to TikTok at some point. You know what I mean? I remember when I went to rent it, I was like, oh man, I haven't seen this movie. I don't even know if I've ever sat down and watched it all the way through or just seen it on TV. I'm like, it can't be that long, right? And I looked at it, I'm like, oh fuck, god damn it. All right, let's go. Anyways, Meanwhile, Batman and Robin call the Navy.
Yeah.
To try to figure out. They call the fucking Navy.
They call the Navy.
Have you sold a non-atomic? This is very important. Non-atomic submarine to anyone. They call the Navy. The Navy or the admiral's assistant or whatever and him are playing some weird game. They're the nicest people. They hand over all the information. They tell him all this.
P and Gwyn.
But then
exactly. P and Gwyn. They had a post office box.
Then Batman gets mad at him and is like,
Yeah,
"How could you sell it?"
Scolding.
And it's just funny that at the end he's like, "Oh, I guess we made a mistake." All
Yeah.
right.
Let's go back.
Batman he doesn't even correct him. He's just like, "I hope I didn't make a mistake, Batman." And then Batman hangs up on him and is like,
fucking idiot. Clink.
Without an address even. Oh.
My favorite bit here though is like it happens P and Gwyn, and then you see Robin just like under his breath go, God damn it.
It's subtle as a heart attack. God bless it.
So now the plan is afoot, right? That they're gonna kidnap Bruce. This is obviously Catwoman now being Miss Kitka, the Russian bugle whatever woman. She shows up on Bruce Wayne's doorstep, and she has Riddler's riddles that again are more nonsense, but they are very much directed at her, thus putting her in the damsel in distress role, to then lure in Bruce Wayne for the kidnapping, to then lure in Batman for this incredibly complicated trap. And so she goes to Bruce Wayne. She gives him all this information. She's like, should we call the police? Should we call Batman or whatever? He's like, no, don't worry about it. But we should discuss this more over dinner. She's like, oh, la, la. But she, or da. She says a lot of da stuff. Not like that. Yeah, right. And so.
I like for the rest of my life, I will just hear Adam West saying, Mrs. Kitka. Like it's just, it's so weird. And I guess
Sounds
it's
like
so.
Cat.
It's so interesting kind of growing up with Adam West only being
As
a
a
Family
parody.
Guy for me.
Yeah.
Like him being in Family Guy is just such a known character for me that I kind of forgot that he had a career before that. And it's just so interesting seeing the younger version kind of being, because you always assume, oh, it's got to be a character of him, a caricature of himself, you know, in these Family Guy episodes. But no, he's just like that. He has this very
distinct delivery.
Yeah, the distinct delivery, but also reminds me of Captain Kirk.
Sure.
Oh yeah, William Shatner for sure.
William Shatner. That's sort of the delivery of the words come out really weird.
Jeff Goldblum too, man.
A
lot of vibes from him, and I'm with you, Andy. Where it's like I know him more as a parody than as himself, and like hearing this, I'm just like, oh my god! Like, did Jeff Goldblum just study this growing up, and like that's what happened?
That's the thing. There's a documentary about Adam West. I haven't watched it yet, but it talks about like his life after this and how he had a lot of trouble finding roles because he was so typecast as Batman, and everyone's like, we're not going to work with him as Batman. Well, no, I mean, but it got hard for him because at a certain point, when you had your career in 1966, but you still have to live 40 years, you're like, I got to make money somehow. So he like would do. I guess he went like on road shows and did appearances and stuff, and that's how he made his money. And then Seth MacFarlane was like, hey, why don't you come work for? Like be Adam West, basically. I'll write a character for you as Mayor Adam West, and brought his career back. It's
that impossible thing to quantify or tell somebody at that time, right? But like, yeah, like you get typecast as Batman, I can't do anything else in 1969, 68 or whatever it is when the show goes off the air, and you figure that, yeah, how do you tell somebody to hold on that everybody's going to grow up on this nostalgia? And when you get to a certain, I remember that Simpsons episode being such a big deal to my parents, like to see him on TV again, right? Then to have Family Guy, but then also just to get to where we are, where like nerds rule the earth now, and all the shit we grew up on, we love and keep spending money on, and like, you know, the fact that they did sequels to this as animated stuff, right?
Yeah. Recently, right?
Old, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that was a actually pretty fun part of both of our lives, Greg, when he came in for that interview for Comic-Con.
Totally.
And it was like, I don't know what I've done. I've done a lot of stupid, wrong shit in my life, but somewhere along the line, I did something right, because I'm now staring at Adam West getting mic'd up for a production that I'm a part of, and then getting to watch Greg interview him on a Comic-Con set. I was like, fucking A, this world, there is good left in this world.
And that was the thing about it that I think is so important, is that I think, you know, I remember growing up and you'd hear this like, oh yeah, he got typecast and couldn't do anything. And you'd hear that like he didn't like the part anymore, right? Or like didn't, you know, you hear like, you assume you'd have a chip on your shoulder about that in some regard.
Sure.
But then to get when I met him, right, and I got to work with him back-to-back days. I don't know if you remember, Nick, because we did Comic-Con, and then it was all Comic-Con, but we did the IGN stage, and then the next day I did the Lego DC panel that he was hosting.
Oh, right.
Whichever game, or he was on, I was hosting. Whichever, I forget the game, which one it was. If it was supervillains, or no, it wasn't supervillains. So it must have been Lego DC 2 or 3 or whatever, where he was like the Stan Lee character, where he was the Adam West in peril. He did narration and shit. And so warm and so in a different spot because it finally paid off, right? Like however arduous that journey was, it paid off in the end where he got to see the payout to it, where not financially necessarily, but like he's beloved, you know what I mean? Yeah. And like he was so awesome on IGN. I remember taking photos with him after, and I remember the next day, like he remembered me and he remembered my name, and we had sequels of the conversations we had there, and then he was so entertaining on the panel and shit like that. Like he was all in on it in such an awesome way. And this is a weird diatribe, but like, it was cool to see it pay off for him in the end. I understand. Like right now, it's the opposite of, I guess this is, because you're right. He did do the road shows and did do the con appearances in the same way. Like, even though Mark Hamill had a very different trajectory as a voice actor and stuff, I remember him doing that and that being a thing you'd see. Oh, he's at fucking Wizard World, whatever. Like, I don't like Star Wars, but it's cool that he's here, kind of thing. Right. I remember one of the Walking Dead actors who showed up on our doorstep for Up at Noon one time, and he had like 2 episodes had aired so far. And I remember talking to him, and he was still trying to did not have his head wrapped around what he had walked into. And I remember telling him, like, no, you need to understand, like, when this is done, you'll be able to, if you wanted to, fuck off on acting and just go to conventions the rest of your life and like sell, autographs $50 a pop or whatever the hell it be. And he's like, really? And then I've run into him at Collins doing that since then. And it's that thing of like,
Greg. He just threw money at everyone.
I think he's still on the show too. So, but it's like that thing of like, it's just a different, now the payout's there. It's instantaneous because of where we live. Well, but for Adam West, to be like, cool, that was fun. Now I want to go be an actor and other stuff. And everybody's like, no, we don't want you to be.
Also, another little quick story. He became really, really good. Adam West became really good friends with the Dan Le Batard show and would appear all the time just to talk about whatever. Yeah. And then Jeff Garlin went on one time. Jeff Garlin of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, love him.
And they had them both on at the same time. And Jeff Garlin kept trying to do these impersonations of Adam West, and Adam West would always give him shit. And they became really, really good friends. And then when he eventually passed away, it was like a really sad show. And they played a little montage of all his appearances. Like, wow, I felt like I became close to Adam West because of this show. It was really bizarre.
and that's the thing. You look back, and so few people can say this, but he, over the years, and I think in the 60s he became iconic and then went away, but now he has cemented his sort of status in culture. I don't know if I say nerd culture. I'm just saying pop culture in general as being an icon. Like when you think of Batman, for better or for worse, the first image that pops into my brain more often than not is Adam West's Batman, because that permeated my childhood. And I'm glad people look back on that and realize how important and special he was.
I digress.
We're still at the shark, so he's fighting the shark.
No, we're actually we kind of caught up to some of the stuff we did. So Kika lays the trap. Bruce goes down. God, if I had to see these fuckers go down the pole and hit the instant change button one more time, I get it. I get it. The show always just showed you switch, and that was fine. I don't need to see you constantly throw this fucking switch.
Everything is labeled, right? We know that, but including at the top of the pole,
poles to
back Bruce, and it's just like, well, oh my god, it's so stupid.
Do you think every once in a while they just go, let's just go the opposite and see what happens?
Bruce Wayne would jump down in a little Robin outfit.
Bruce
and be like,
jumps on Dick's pole, and they just ride him down.
Too much.
So yeah, now it's what we were talking about earlier, where Batman's like, I'm gonna go. Bruce Wayne's gonna go on a date with her. I need you guys to follow behind and monitor everything that happens, right? And Robin's like, okay. Alfred, you got to drive. Okay. Do you have your license? He's like, right here, sir. Like, you know what I mean? Just so if you're let's set a good example for the kids. Never leave home without your driver's license. So yeah, they go to some weird 1966 beatnik French singing cafe where everybody's sitting on the floor in pillows or whatever, and they're having a great time and they're hitting it off. And then they go out and they get into the horse-drawn carriage. They ride off the Batmobiles behind them at 15 miles an hour, slowly trolling, and they ride through Gotham City Central Park. And they're getting close, guys. You know what I mean? Like, this is clearly going Bruce and Kitka's way, and Bruce is canoodling and he's shutting his eyes and he's dreaming of stuff, and it's not the thing she's dreaming of. And then when she hears it's not the thing he's dreaming of, she's like, let's keep dreaming of that same dream, kind of thing. And at the meeting,
it's about to climax, is what he says.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And she's like, no, not so soon. Meanwhile, Robin and Alfred are turning it on, turning it off, kind of thing, setting that up right there. And Alfred does want to be a creep and watch the entire time. Meanwhile, Bruce's eyes are closed in the stealthiest fashion of all time. Miss Kitka brings out this fucking cat Morse code machine.
Everything has to be on brand for them, and I respect that so
Absolutely.
much.
When the Riddler busts out his binoculars and there's the question mark in the center, you're like, God damn, dude. She sends the word back to the other villains that the plan is in place. Everything's going exactly the way it should. So, get ready for all this shit. Meanwhile, Robin's reporting back to Commissioner Gordon on all this crap, too. There's a lot of planes of action here, as they say. We go back to Kika's apartment. Her and Bruce canoodle a bit.
Fast for them,
They are. I like to see it. 66, man, swinging time. You know what I mean? Swinging time.
Was anyone else upset for Robin? Because he seemed like he was taking it real hard.
Yeah, seeing his hero, he knows that they're not married. You know what I mean? Robin still has morals. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he's right. He's the moral center for the show.
Mm-hmm.
And so they turn it off. Kitka goes and gets into something more comfortable. She comes out in this just fucking sexy ass nightgown. Nick, am I wrong here? This is a look. This is a good look, as Natalie Portman would say.
The whole everything. Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely
so she comes down and she sits down. I think they might canoodle a little bit more here, but then the other people start coming in, and it's all the bad guys, and they're like, "Oh, we're coming to take you, Bruce Wayne."
So at this point, I'd be like, "Wait a minute," because this dude just handed us our asses. What's going on with this guy that looks, sounds, and is the same height as Batman and fights like Batman and beat the shit out of 7? I would be like, why does this millionaire know how to handle himself so well? Nobody bothers asking that question because, Greg, all they want to do is get him on the giant, intricately overdone plane in the hangar where they're going to fucking catapult him out the window and then someone's going to blow him up.
Come to our hideout. Step on this specific thing. Answer my riddle.
This 2x2
specific thing. Get catapulted out and then get wrapped up by an exploding octopus we have set up out in the ocean.
What's funny also is that Bruce, when he's talking to Kit Kat at one point, mentions that he basically has a tracker on him. And she's like, why would you have that? And he's like, oh, don't worry. Entrepreneurs like myself that are used to handling a lot of money carry those sort of things. And it's like,
But before we get there, there's the fight. There's the Adam West beating the shit out of a bunch of stunt doubles. Yeah.
The amount of space between the punches and their face. Jesus Christ.
Hey, man. They need Adam West in there.
I definitely I slowed down the play or whatever, and I just pause it and at least a good foot between most of the punches.
Yeah, you didn't have to slow it down. Some of them were, and they were shot. A couple of them were shot in a way that the person was between them and the camera, so you couldn't tell if it had made contact. Yeah. But some of them were profile shots that it was
it was all moving so fast. Kids and adults were happy to be in the theater.
If there's one thing this movie did, it's moved so fast.
We were still a nation reeling from the assassination of JFK. All right, guys?
What I appreciate is that this movie is just egregious about it. It's hey, remember in the TV show when they walk up the wall? We're going to show you all of that. Hey, remember when they go down the pole? We're going to show you that 10 fucking times. But they saved the pals and bams and shit for the final fight. Yeah, all the other fights, they don't get it. So when we finally get it, it's just
it's hype.
Let's fuck.
Yeah, I was kind of confused by that because I remember watching all the early fight scenes. I kept wondering, was that a different show? Maybe that's a different thing I'm thinking of because obviously the pows and the bams and the all the other onomatopoeias were they're kind of cemented in film history. And so seeing it at the end, I was like, it is the show. They're just saving it for the end, baby. Saving it for the end. If you stuck around this long, we're gonna reward you.
You're gonna get paid off. You're gonna get paid off. So they bring Bruce Wayne back to the hideout where they have the intricate trap. Bruce wakes up and hears them discussing the plan on what they're gonna do here. Of that, the Batman's gonna come and do this stuff. He's like, "Fuck, this is bad." And he's like, "Batman's not gonna come." He's like, "Okay, cool. I need to see. I won't help her do anything until I see Miss Kitka." And they're like, all right, fine. Take him down to the labyrinth and to room 17 and trying to make it all sound fucking way more intense.
And it was just the door in the back.
Yeah. This place is literally 2 rooms in this whole place. It's just
Catwoman changes into her Kick outfit. She goes in there and lays on the bed tied up as well. Then they bring in Bruce and throw him down. They start to canoodle, but they can't canoodle right now. They've got to do this. He's like, listen, Batman's not coming. She's like, how do you know? And he's like, you put me in a compromising situation if I told you. But as Kevin said, I have on my left elbow this thing that'll allow me to talk to, okay, help me. This is when Penguin's listening, obviously. He's like, bust in there and get everything. So they go in there, they get him out, and they're like, let's look for the thing on his left elbow, and that they undo his hands, and that's what Bruce needs. He starts throwing the punches and the bams and the whoofs and and he's kicking and he's pushing and he's doing all this stuff, and eventually he fucking crawls. One of the guys, the jabronis, gets onto the trap and gets thrown out the window and blown up by the octopus. This is now giving Bruce an escape path. He tries to save Miss Kitka because, of course, he's Batman and a good guy. She's not in there and he can't understand it. He gets out, he beats the shit out of some people, and then he climbs up the bookcase, jumps out, jumps into the water, and he's gone.
And it was definitely Adam West jumping in the water.
Definitely Adam West jumping in the water.
That was a good dive. That was a nice dive.
Andy, when you're a giant movie star, we'll see if you fucking do your own stunts.
Exactly. You're worth too much.
We just don't appreciate Tom Cruise enough. You know,
we really don't.
He's trying to get these last 2 movies done before he's 60 years old, man.
So he goes back to Wayne Manor where Commissioner Gordon and Robin are like pacing. He comes in, he's wet, right? And he's just like, hey, everybody, Robin, we got to go do that thing. We got to go do that thing we said we're going to do. And Gordon's like, what the fuck, man? No, you don't. And he's like, no, Batman got me out of that jam. And you should actually probably go back to the office because he's got to call you. And Gordon's like, fuck, that's a great call. And he runs off. And they went upstairs, but it was a feint. They run back downstairs. They open the Shakespeare's head. They hit the button. They go down there and they slide down. They're going to get to their shit. Back at home, because believe it or not, like, there's still a fucking plot point to this that they kidnapped a goddamn inventor.
Now, was he was the inventor that invented the dehydration machine?
He figured out how to dehydrate whiskey. He was going to use this to dehydrate whiskey for some reason. Remember, he's a distillery dude who is British and a sailor and an idiot. Whatever. They got this thing.
It would make it way cheaper to export whiskey. If you get the water out, you know what I mean?
Sure, that does make sense. They are like, you know what we're going to do? We are going to dehydrate these criminals here, our thugs. And so they do that really slowly. They don't tell us that originally. So you're like, why are the thugs just standing there? Why? What is going on here? What is happening?
The weird outline around them.
Right? Yeah, it's a still picture with a weird outline. And what doesn't make sense to me is they later do this effect with the UN and that they're moving. Like there's action going on there.
Well, they were being rehydrated. Remember, very different, very different.
No, he's saying when they shoot him originally one by one, and they make sure you know that all 9 people at the table have been dehydrated, and they show it to you at the length ad nauseum.
Anyways, they shrink down those dudes. The dehydrator works. Huzzah! Then. It works great. Oh yeah, okay, so it works great. Batman and Robin show up. This is what Nick was talking about of them doing the long walk in, the long walk out, all that shit. They come in and the bad guys aren't there, but a bomb is. And this is what we talked about earlier. You grab the bomb, you run. Batman runs it out. It's an infamous scene of Batman running it out.
So great.
The nuns, the marching band, the woman with the baby, the people in general, the ducks that are wooden ducks. They couldn't even get real ducks. They put decoys in the water and went quack, 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 quack.
Well, you can't train a duck, Greg. Come on, don't be silly.
But you can film a duck. You can film a family of ducks.
You can film a family of ducks. You sure can.
Eventually, even though he runs to the water like 19 times, he just runs to the water and finally realizes he can throw it away from whatever he's worried about doing it. He throws it, the bomb goes off. Robin runs up a second too late. And he's like, "Oh my god, Batman!" Batman just stands up from behind some fucking pipes. He's like,
and then he says, "Like they got these pipes were here, these lead pipes."
Like, all right, whatever. Before we get really, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to go as they're climbing up their hideout, which was just a restaurant, right? With like a top floor.
Yeah, it was a bar. Yeah, there was that bar connected to it.
There's a line that Robin says that I think is just fucking hilarious, where he's like, "Wait, how could these people not notice that all these criminals are here?" And they're like, "Well, Robin, these guys, this is not a great part of town. These guys are drinking a lot." And then he's like, "Oh, the drink, it's terrible," or something like that.
Yeah.
Then Batman's like, and then Batman has another line too, where it's like, you always could feel the producers are like, we have a moral responsibility here to tell people, like kids growing up, how bad these things are, but also that people that are alcoholics are just suffering from a disease and need help. Like, there's a moment where Batman's like, they're not all bad. Alcoholism is tough to break.
Wasn't he also drinking alcohol at the restaurant?
No, that's the thing. There's a great gag there that Jen called out. She's like, is he drinking a White Russian? And I'm like, no, babe, he's drinking a glass of milk. Kitka's got a cocktail and he has a cognac glass full of milk and he cheers her and drinks it and they never talk about it or reference it. But that's just Batman drinking milk.
Wait, how do you know that's milk?
Dull your senses
because it's Batman.
we have to have these kids know. We have to have these kids know right from wrong, right, Nick? Like we have to tell them how to be a good moral human being, but also we got to let them know that Bruce Wayne's about to come in his pants when he's dreaming about her in the car.
That's fair.
All right, so you survived because of the pipes. Great. At this point, Penguin comes out in a terrible disguise, made to look like he is the dude that's the inventor, and he's like, "Hey guys, I'm the inventor, and I need your help or whatever." And they're like, "Clearly, this is they do like the fucking thing from James Bond Strike Back with fucking Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, where they turn like, I don't know, like that's clearly Penguin, right? Yeah, no shit, it's Penguin. Like, all right, we'll run your fingerprints through a database. And he's like, sorry, they got burned off. He's like, oh, it looks like you got plastic on your fingers. Fuck, there's no way around that. And they're like, okay, cool. What we'll do is we'll bring you back to the Batcave and we'll do all the things there, the tests on you there for the retina. They're going to do a retina scan because the blood vessels in your eyes are so fucking unique, like a fingerprint. And he's like, great, perfect. And they're like, we're going to knock you out with some gas. So he's like, cool, whatever. And they knock him out. They put him in the Batmobile. They drive to the Batcave. He wakes up there. And they're like, all right, well, let's fucking prove who the fuck you really are. He's like, well, before that, can I get a glass of water? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, you can clearly see.
Clearly labeled.
It's clearly labeled. And he walks over to that. And he opens up while he's doing this terrible job of like taking out all the vials of the criminals
and spreading them out.
Hydrated. Yeah, spreading them out.
So good.
Attaches them via hose to the thing, but he puts it to hard water instead of soft water. Does it activates the bad guys. Batman and Robin are perplexed. They start throwing punches though, and these guys just die immediately. They just have one punch, touch, and they just drop. They just drop. You know what I mean? They're like Senator Kelly in the X-Men movies when he loses the ability to hold shape. Remember that mutant power that didn't go well.
Wow.
Wait, does that mean that the water was still him? He just didn't have the ability to stay in his form.
No, it was his genes. Yeah. He couldn't hold it together at a cellular level. Old chum. He drops them, and they're like, "All right, cool. Well, fuck this, Penguin. We're taking you away. We're gonna go throw you in jail or whatever the fuck they're gonna do with him." And so they knock him back out, and they put him back in the Batmobile. They're driving, and this is when
and then he's
Batman,
like, "Robin, take this pill."
Yeah, take this pill. Yeah, take this pill, Robin.
Like, don't worry what it does. Just take it.
Don't ask questions.
Robin's like, no problem. I got you. Come on. Passes out.
So yeah, they take the pill. They wake up the Penguin. The Penguin uses gas on them, right, to knock them out and push them out of the sides of the car. And then he drives off in the Batmobile. But Batman and Robin wake up because the pill was an anti-gas pill. And then they get into their motorcycle with a little sidecar, which is funny. But it's even more funny when they drive it over to the Batcopter. And when they do that at the very last second, just as they pull up for no reason, disengage, and they just roll up. They split the copter and roll up next to each other. I'm like, that's actually pretty fucking cool for no reason. But
it was amazing.
It saves 10 seconds, maybe 5 seconds of running around the helicopter.
The villains now are doing the heist that this is all about, which is taking the UN, right? So Riddler needs to give a riddle to Batman and Robin for what they're about to do. And they're like, okay, use the missile. What are it's like the Kovac missile that what do they call it? Polaris missile. Yeah. Like, all right, cool. They send off a Polaris missile to write the riddle in the sky, which just so happens to throw off Batman and Robin in their helicopter, and it spins wildly out of control. They get to watch this on Periscope, right? They're like, oh my God, look at they're fucking out of control. Don't worry, Kevin, sorry.
Oh, I was like, don't worry. They land on what? The
foam, pile of foam. Yeah. But
pile of foam.
The villains do believe that even though the Penguin's plan failed, they have killed Batman and Robin, and they are free and clear.
They believe that like every other time.
They just want to believe
they interact with Batman.
It's how this world works, right? So now they go to the UN building, and they come up through an elevator that's labeled "Do Not Use." They're like, we're villains. We'll fucking use this thing. They go up there. They go into the UN council meeting where all the different nations have a representative there, all speaking their native tongue and yelling at each other. Nobody's paying attention.
Not a good way to communicate, you know?
It's not. And so after they gas at all the people on the outside, they get in there. This is when they break out the dehydrator. And yes, one by one, they dehydrate all these guys.
No one reacts.
No, because they're too busy making their own arguments. Sure. Typical fucking politicians. They leave the little mounds of colored dust on the chairs. The villains are like, we did it, and they start sweeping up.
I just love that they were all different colored dust.
I know, I love it.
It's so ridiculous.
It's so
what's ridiculous is that like they all get out their little dustpans and brushes, and they're like, all right, make sure not to leave any dust.
Batman and Robin, meanwhile, show up at the UN building. They come in the front door like the good lads they are, and they're like, "Seal the building! All hell's breaking loose. We're Batman and Robin." And they get up there.
Like a good chum they are.
Yeah, they get up there, and did they come through the window on this one? No, they came up normally, right?
No, they came
at some point. They do the gag at some point where they climb up the side of the building, and the guy opens the thing. You're like, there are people walking on the wall. They get up there though, and they're too late.
That was earlier. That was with that's where Robin says the thing about drunk people.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And then like a drunk guy opens it and is like, "Oh,
right.
We'll quit drinking." He didn't say that. He kept drinking.
Yeah. So they get up there now. It's too late. They're already gone. They have the whole thing. I believe this is bad. The villains have them all in their vessel, in the vessels, and they get back in the submarine. And Batman and Robin are like, "Oh man, they're here to take over the whole world."
Just start getting torpedoed. They start getting rocketed.
Is it that quick that we go to that?
No, I think they hang out for a little while because they start planning. They want $1 billion
for each person, right? Yeah, from every nation, they want $1 billion for every person. Yeah.
At what point do they get on the umbrella jetpacks? Because that was ridiculous.
That was earlier when they got Bruce Wayne, when they kidnapped Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Holy Halloween, Batman. Yeah, when Robin turns the thing back on. There's a lot in this movie. There is a lot.
I love, by the way, like every time they cut back to the submarine and it's just paddling. It's you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just the penguin, the little feet. I love that. It's clearly just a toy in a bathtub.
Yep.
It's just filmed.
With aquarium.
Also, I want to give a shout out to we're getting to the point where the submarine pops up and they have the big fight at the end. But if you look closely, like I never noticed this when I was a kid, obviously, because we didn't have high fidelity like TVs. But the fact that you're watching this in HD, you can clearly see the clouds are just the backdrop at like the studio.
Oh yeah,
and they're kind of cracked, and the wall is just inconsistent, so it doesn't work at all. And it's only shot from that one perspective. You never see the opposite angle because it would just be a.
So yeah, they're in their submarine. They think they've won. Batman and Robin get in the Batboat. They come over there. And this is when I'm like struggling to stay on the movie. And they're down there celebrating, and they want to stop them. And this is when he hands Robin some kind of weird bazooka sea mine thing that shoots neon colored things at the submarine, and they do that a bunch of times, and the submarine rocks back and forth, and you see the dust vials rocking back and forth
to the craziest degree. At one point they're like 35 degrees, or like about like there's no way they wouldn't be tipping over.
Just like every camera angle when bad guys are on the screen.
Yeah,
the Dutch angle.
Single one is just like more and more
very Dutch. What's funny is they did it the wrong way though. In this, did you guys notice that? Is that what you just said? Sorry, I was looking at the Batman costume. So it's Dutched. It's always Dutch like one way or the other, right? But when they do the effect, they used to do the old effect where like when someone would hit a ship, they would shake it and then they'd tilt the camera a certain way, and everyone was supposed to sort of slide that way. But in this one, if you watch, they tilt it this way and everyone slides upward because they gave them the wrong direction, so they all go to the wrong side of it. So it looks like they're funny. Like the kinetic energy is pushing them the wrong way.
It was disorienting. That's all that mattered. You know what I mean?
That is all that mattered.
They do this enough though to make the submarine surface. Batman and Robin dock with the submarine. Then everybody comes out of the submarine, and they all just fucking fist fight and fall in the water. And you're like, oh man, Batman and Robin are just gonna knock everybody into the water. No, Batman and Robin start getting knocked in the water too. The battles are raging up there. But once everybody's in the water, they use a rope to tie all the bad guys to the submarine, with the exception of Catwoman, who, by the way, man, there was no PETA back in the day, right? Or they are throwing around a real fucking cat. They have a real cat that is not down to be in these scenes as Batman runs around with it.
The cat, like, there was zero attempt from the cat to, like, look like it was even gonna fight anyone. She literally just throws it. Batman just catches it and is like, okay, I guess I'll hold this for the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's confusing as to what's going on with the cat. Well, it's just like, is he just trying to save the cat? So that's why like he's just holding it so it doesn't get injured?
I thought, is he going to use it as a weapon? And instead he's just running around, and this poor cat's just like terrified.
Like a Baron Polo, just throws the cat around someone's neck.
And so, eventually they get back on the boat. Catwoman gets knocked down or trips or whatever. Her mask flies off. Batman realizes, of course, this is Miss Kitka. Robin runs up.
Is this where the music plays?
And the super dramatic, like,
oh yeah, the French music
tight
from
shot.
the bar scene.
Yeah.
Where he
Like
realizes
distant zone. He's just like,
I've been tricked.
yeah. And
just
Robin
stays there.
Robin
He sits-
apologizes, of course, and he's like, "Stop! Don't say anymore. It's no big deal. Just a life of a
Right.
crime fighter kind of shit." Yeah, well.
It goes on for so long, though. It's
So
on him
long.
for
Yes,
so
it does go on
So
for a long
long.
time. The whole movie goes on for a long time.
But this one, I was like, are they going to cut away from him ever? For a second, I thought we were just going to stay on that
The
shot of
movie's
Adam
gonna
West. Then it was going to slowly fade out and the credits were going to roll up.
They don't. They fix it. From there, then it's the tense thing of we have to rehydrate the World Council
God.
and figure it out.
wait,
Oh no, yeah, no. Sorry. They went downstairs. They found the vials. They were about to tip over, but they didn't. So we saved the day, old chum. At which point, the fucking inventor comes around, barrels into Batman, who then takes all the things and smashes them all over the fucking place, and all of it. And then he sneezes the inventor, and all the guys are mixed, or all the World Council leaders are mixed together. This then leads to Batman and Robin in the Batcave with their surgery aprons and masks on,
So funny.
trying to work and do this. And then they're calling Commissioner Gordon with updates. Who's talking to LBJ in the president's office, and his dogs are there. And every time, and then it's this like chain of command that's ridiculous of like, where they're about to start the separation. We're starting the separation process. Commissioner Gordon picks them up, and they're starting the separation process. LBJ slides over a microphone and goes, "They're starting the separation process." And then we get around the world in different languages, them starting the separation progress being told to the people. Of course, eventually they separate them. It looks like it's all good. Everybody gets celebrating. Yay. Then we go back to the UN Council room. They put all the vials down very intricately, taking way too long. There's a whole elaborate system that takes way too long. They eventually they'll do
water
it.
hooked up on
Yeah.
a tiny little funnel. It doesn't have enough water on it to spread out
Yeah.
to everyone for sure.
Yeah.
You know?
And so they hit it, and the water goes out, and the council comes back, and it looks like it's a job well done, except no, they're in fact all speaking the wrong languages. It's the right bodies
What a goof.
and in the right seats, but they're all talking in different languages.
It didn't hit me immediately because, of course, I watched with subtitles on. But I saw a man who didn't look Japanese speaking Japanese, and I was like, "Oof, this is it was a different time." I was like, "Oh, the languages, okay, got it." Like it took me a while.
And so, that happens. Batman and Robin, as we were talking about earlier in the show, are like, well, Batman's like, you know what? This might be for the best, though. Maybe they'll find more common ground this way, and this will make sure everybody's okay. And he's like, let's just get out of here discreetly, Robin. And they go bat rope down the side of the wall out while everybody marvels at this screwed up thing, but none of the delegates notice. And then we get, as the credits start rolling, two marionettes of Batman and Robin just going down this thing all weird. And that is Batman.
That is
1966.
What a
That is
weird
Batman, the
fucking
movie.
man.
What a
Titan-
weird fucking
Titan-
movie indeed.
Titan Meteor in the chat says, I hadn't thought about it in years, but the dehydrated dust used to occupy my brain at random times. I can
Understandable.
totally see it. I didn't remember it from being little, but like that is the type of thing. If you're a little kid and you see this, you think about it. You're just like, I wonder, is that possible? What a fucking movie. What a fucking movie. What do the people think, though, Andy? Hit me with the haiku and review.
7 syllables in the middle. You need 5 for the first and last line. If you're not poetic, no need to fret it. Haikus don't need to rhyme. Haiku in review. Haiku in review. My snaps weren't loud enough when I was. They just weren't very audible.
You can go to patreon.com/kindafunny to leave your review in haiku form. And I got to say, every once in a while we do a movie and I'm like, we're not going to get a single submission. And this was one of those times where I'm like, is anyone going to watch this along with us? Turns out, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Whole bunch of people did. Tristan Ben says, Batman and Robin with some 60s crime solving. Those goons dissolving.
Oh, I like that.
Always appreciate the rhyme.
Okay.
And then Eric Myers coming with the easy one, but I still give it to him because he's the only one that did it. Na 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 na. Batman.
Wow.
That's
Good
good.
for you.
I'll take
Somebody
it.
did the math on
Take
that
it.
one.
Yeah. Then we got Jake Dye, all about branding, Bat Gas, Bat Copter, also Bat Shark Repellent. The Bat Shark Repellent was definitely jumping the
Another
chest.
level. Yeah.
The best.
And then Engine 25 ends it here with never leave the cave without Bat Shark Repellent. You just might need it. You know, it might save your life.
Yeah, all those scenes are just, you see all these like Saturday Night Live and all these things making fun of that, and you never really knew how far the original took it, and they took it far. Like
They
They took it really far.
like whatever shows you're watching, they were parodying these old Adam West Batman shows. They were doing it because that's how the show was, and I guess but not having really watched it, until you watch it, that's when you understand. Like, oh, all these jokes were totally valid because that's how the show was.
So then we have all of the different podcasts within the podcast, but since this is the first episode, obviously, this movie wins all of them or loses all of them, depending on your perspective. Do any of you have any specific things you want to say about the Batmobile, Batsuit, Alfred, bad guy?
The Batsuit is so dumb. Like, I'm happy we moved away from
this movie. Being like, one of you said this earlier, Nick or Greg, that like this just is the TV show, but a movie. It is like not. It doesn't seem like there's a bigger budget. Like there's moments you're like, okay, the helicopter, okay, the freaking the boat. But besides that, it's just like when Power Rangers had a movie. And granted, this is the 90s. It was a different time, but they went from spandex to dope ass shiny plastic. And that was a moment.
Foam suits.
This Batman, it's just like, nah, man, we're gonna use the same suit, and not only is it just the same suit, like. What's the bat symbol? Is it just a vinyl sticker that sometimes doesn't stick on fully? Let me rephrase that. Does it ever stick on fully? I don't think so.
I think, a lot, obviously, like the bat cave, the Batmobile, all this stuff was just like, hey man, we're flying by the seat of our pants here. Let's not judge too hard. I think what was the full budget of this movie? Like $1 million.
Oh wow.
Which I guess actually for 66 sounds like a big budget.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I guess when you have to film 74 hours of Batman, that you got to stretch that budget out pretty thinly.
Even if you're going to use the shots 10 times each.
I do love the one of the scenes in the earlier helicopter scene where all the girls in bikinis on the roof.
Yeah, and they all just wave.
Oh,
and it's got
yeah.
it's that. Who's that? Do you remember? It's that guy who was famous for working out back in the day. Jack
He's a
Fontaine,
famous
I
fitness
think.
guy.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Huh.
Weird shot. But I love it. It set the tone that everyone loves Batman.
I thought they were going to land on that helipad.
Yeah.
I thought they were just going to party with these like hot women, and they were not.
Oh man. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing, almost finishing Miyazaki in review this Friday. Only 2 left. We got Ponyo this Friday. Ponyo. Someone tell me. Then next Tuesday we will return. Finally, Nick. For Batman 1989.
There it is. There it is. Cannot
Will it be better
wait.
than this? We'll have to wait and see.
Wait, how many times have you guys seen this movie?
Once.
One time?
Yeah,
what about you guys?
Yeah, I don't really remember anything about it. It's a movie my parents had on and whatever. Like I was way too young to remember it.
Oh, I'm excited.
Really? I've watched this movie dozens of times.
Yeah, I don't know. I never went back to it, especially I think Returns is sort of where I remember Batman the most. Like my first introduction to it. Just because I remember Michelle Pfeiffer and, Danny DeVito.
Right.
Until next time.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Nice. That's
There it is. That was really good.